Testing, testing, testing. Okay, alive. Okay, on your mark, get set, go. Good afternoon, y'all. This is the man in the black mask, and he's here to voice his views on this FX documentary that he had just seen, framing Britney Spears and the events that led up to the conservatorship challenge many years down the road. Now, what I learned was that, Britney was collateral, victimized by the public eye in more ways than one. And, if you watch the documentary, there's evidence right there that tells you that she was a victim, not just by her family, but by her so-called friends, let alone that fat piece of shit Sam Lutkoff. No, Lutkoff, who is also behind Amanda Bynes' conservatorship too. Huh. But I want to read this article to you before I talk to you about anything else. You know, framing Britney Spears on FX shows how the singer gets used for everyone else's purposes. An entire industry profited from Spears' successes as well as her failures, manufacturing a narrative that suited their purposes while silencing. Now that's what this is all about, man. Now, let me read this part here, because this Family Feud shit was what probably made her crazy. Name something Britney Spears has lost. Family Feud host John O'Hurley instructs two eager contestants during an episode of the popular TV game show, prompting them to slam their palms on the buzzer in a furious rush to be the first to give an answer. Her husband, shouts the winner. You see that? That was all a mockery. Indeed, that answer is on the board. The crowd goes wild. The next contestant twirls her brown locks. Her hair, she exclaims. That's on the board as well, in the top slot. Then O'Hurley walks over to the second contestant's team to ask for another example of what Britney Spears has lost. Now, this is all a mockery, that Family Feud shit. Her sanity is the triumphant reply. You see that? This is all a mockery. When I saw that Family Feud segment on framing Britney Spears, yo, I thought, how fucking dare you mock someone over their pain and suffering? That girl is suffering and you're making a fucking comedy out of it. In a chilling testimony to the agency, she has now been denied. Her story is told by other people because the singer herself couldn't be interviewed. Remember, part of conservatorship. They got her under lock and key. They just want her to shut her mouth. They don't want her to review the true aspects that could turn this whole conservatorship challenge upside down. That's why they don't want her to talk to nobody. Someone at Family Feud thought it was a good idea to make Spears' life a joke. And, and then others either implicitly or enthusiastically approved. They made a woman's suffering into entertainment. I'll never forget that segment, okay? I was insulted by it too. The incident, though searing, is just one example of copious footage showing the child performer turned pop star being used for someone else's careless or even malicious ends in the compelling New York Times documentary framing Britney Spears, airing Friday night on FX and Hulu. I saw the documentary last night, and I thought it was appalling on so many levels because of what they did to that poor girl. Basically just ruined her life. An entire industry profited from Spears' successes as well as her failures, manufacturing a narrative that suited their purposes and silenced Spears. She was framed, as the film argues, framed like a person trapped in a photograph, framed as in punished for something she didn't do. Part of the way Spears has been transformed into an object stems from a conservatorship she was placed under in 2008 that continues to give her father control over her finances and other parts of her life. A conservatorship that this documentary carefully scrutinizes. As portrayed in the documentary, Spears' conservatorship looms as the ultimate example of the system's oppression, a continuous and overarching mechanism meant to protect Spears from herself, but usually used to control her. You know what I'm saying? She's not even black, and they're already fucking with her like that. I mean, so this leads me to ask one question. Would they have done this shit to her if she wasn't a celebrity? I mean, who knows? But it is a sign of governmental oppression when it comes to guardianships, because guardianships, aka conservatorships, are usually used for the elderly, whose minds are not in the same frame as those of the younger people. Let's just say they might have Alzheimer's disease or dementia that causes these elderly people to not be able to manage their life or their finances. So yeah, they're gonna need some legal help. But Brittany, I didn't think she needed it. Long-term treatment, yeah, but not no guardianship. I mean, come on now, that's just way too fucking far, man. They literally jumped the gun when it came time to help Brittany. Yeah, she needed help, but I didn't think she needed guardianship on top of it because most of us that had to get help did not have to be put under guardianship. But Brittany, this one took the cake. I mean, I felt this was abuse on so many levels. They just used her because she had so much fucking money, you know? Because back then she had like 2016 million her net worth, which is now about between 58 and 60 million, mostly due to the guardianship fees and everything else in between. In a chilling testimony to the agency, she has now been denied. Her story is told by other people because the singer herself couldn't be interviewed. A note at the end says rather ominously. The New York Times attempted to reach Britney Spears directly to request her participation in this project. It is unclear if she received the request. Now, if I had to guess, it would probably be no. They didn't want her to tell the truth because, again, it might have killed the conservatorship because she has the answers to the questions that the public have been asking for the past 12, 13 years' time. And they didn't want her to reveal the evidence that could ultimately derail this whole guardianship. You understand? This was used to silence her. They wanted her to shut her mouth. They did not want her to talk to nobody. While framing Britney Spears doesn't break new ground, perhaps because the filmmakers couldn't speak to the subject herself, the documentary's effectiveness comes from its skillful weaving together of past footage with critical commentary. By juxtaposing images of Spears in the prime of her career with discussions about conservatorship, the documentary adds to the critical conversation we are having about women, agency, and trauma, which she is a victim of, by all means. She is a product of that trauma. You can tell she was abused as a child to an extent, especially with her piece of shit father, who I learned had been a junkie through much of Britney's childhood. And a lot of you remember last year that James Spears was once under investigation for hitting one of Britney's sons during an argument. That led to Kevin Federline getting a restraining order against Jamie. Indeed, something that I felt he deserved. And that told me right there why Britney hates her dad all the while and kind of blames him for what's happening in the now, the guardianship. So it is mostly his fault. It's not all Britney. Never say Britney is not a victim. She is a victim. Remember, she became collateral as a result of the public eye and the trauma that she suffered. That led up to 2 suicide attempts, her drug use, her losing custody of her children, and last but not least, the 2 5150s, one of which led to the conservatorship. We first meet young Britney through the eyes of her former assistant, Felicia Pilata. This is a shrewd way to frame the documentary itself and emphasize that Spears is not a child. She's a 39-year-old woman who doesn't need supervision anymore and can control the trajectory of her life. Now, they were being frank about one thing, but I was frank with you earlier about the fact that she was manipulated her whole life. And I also think the man in the black mask also thinks that Britney might have been bullied into signing those papers just so that she could see her kids. Now, that could be another reason why they got her on the legal lock and key. And trust me, let me tell you something. The man in the black mask would never sign conservatorship papers. I would tell the lawyer to stick it up his ass before I sign it. I mean, there are some things that you don't do to people when it comes to their money or their life. That's why I told you that she was bullied and threatened into signing those papers just so that she can get custody of her kids. They took advantage of her because she wanted to see her kids again, and they wanted to make her a ward of the state just so that she can get her wish. Again, they added abuse on top of abuse. Even before Spears starts to go off track, we see glimpses of the ways Hollywood damaged an effervescent girl. We watch a clip of Spears performing on the late Ed McMahon's Star Search in 1992, adorable with a large bow in her hair. Afterward, McMahon asked the 11-year-old if she has a boyfriend. Fucking idiot. You don't ask no 11-year-old if she got a boyfriend. And that is like a creepy way to engage with a young guest. Hell, when I was 11, nobody never asked me if I had a girlfriend. I mean, it's just inappropriate. Come on now. What the fuck is the matter with these people? As Spears rises to fame, we hear co-workers and associates testify to her work ethic and creative vision, emphasizing that she always called the shot. They paint the picture of Spears as focused and in control. Behind-the-scenes footage of her rehearsals reminded us that she really was a spectacular dancing and singing talent and had boundless energy during this point in her career. We also hear from the paparazzi, again, it was their fault too that Britney's on the lock and key and she can't even show her face as much as she wants to no more. And even better, she will not perform ever again until that conservatorship is killed. And you know what? I fucking agree with her. But let me be frank with you about something. If they have me under that piece of shit conservatorship as a star, you know what? You will never see my fucking money no more. You know why? Because I'm not doing shit for you until you kill that piece of shit. And I would have went on strike too. They want me to perform just so they can live off of my goddamn money. Well, they can shove up their asses because I'm not giving them shit no more. And that's Britney's mentality. And I agree with her. She shouldn't do nothing unless that conservatorship is killed because she should not be on that shit in the first place. Remember, she's going to be 40 in December. She's 39. She's not 89. So they should mind their fucking business and give her her life back. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of all these fucking excuses that they're making about Britney just so that they can have their way with her. We also hear from the paparazzi who are themselves at the height of their powers during Spears' early career, hounding her to distraction, specifically Daniel Ramos, infamously known as the man whose car Spears attacked with an umbrella. Ramos explains the pictures of Britney sold for exorbitant prices, and it was easy to convince oneself that Spears and the paparazzi were mutually benefiting from each other. Now, I remember that time back in '07 when Britney attacked this paparazzo's car with an umbrella. I mean, I'll never forget. She had her hair shaved and everything else. I thought it was kind of bizarre. I really felt she shouldn't have done that. I kind of thought that was going way too far because that person could have had a gun or something and could have easily shot her and been justified. So a lot of you was worried about that too, thinking, what if that paparazzo had a gun and Britney did that? I kind of felt she was wrong on that level. But again, she, let's just say it's trauma from abuse, which is what caused her to have all those meltdowns. I'm sure y'all heard of post-traumatic stress disorder. I know some of us have that from the stuff that we went through as children, you know? And Britney had stated that she shaved her hair because she didn't want anybody to touch her. That was her claim. And she got tired of the paparazzi stalking her all the time. They didn't give her no room. They just profited off of her life. She never gave a clue or information to us that I don't appreciate you guys. Leave me the fuck alone, Ramos says. To the interview responds, what about when she said, leave me alone? It's a satisfying moment. Exactly. She didn't want the paparazzi following her. We see Spears as presented by the tabloid industry, especially after her 2002 breakup with Justin Timberlake. Spears is scolded on a split by ABC's Diane Sawyer in a 2003 primetime interview about unproven rumors that she cheated on him. You broke his heart. You did something that caused him so much pain, so much suffering. What did you do? Sawyer asked, a pursued look on her face. Sawyer also informed Spears that Kendall Ehrlich, wife of Governor of Maryland, said that if she had the opportunity to shoot Britney Spears, she would. God damn it. Spears is punished in another TV interview by the later disgraced Matt Lauer on NBC for being an unfit mother because she drove with her child in her lap. Caught in the face of both sanctimonious misogyny, a harried mother who made a bad decision, Spears cries and apologizes. Now, part of Britney's motivation for driving the car with her kid, resting on her lap, was the fact that she was inspired by what James Spears did when Britney was a baby. How he used to ride the car with Britney strapped to his chest, his waist. Okay, she was inspired by a similar experience as a child, so she figured that she'd bring it to the next generation. She wanted to show the kid the world. I didn't really think she was trying to put that kid in danger. I mean, I hope not. Spears continued to be harassed by the media, eventually requiring hospitalization for mental health issues in 2008, while in the midst of a custody battle with ex-husband Kevin Federline. In the wake of Spears' hospitalization, her father, Jamie, petitioned the courts for an emergency temporary conservatorship, which ultimately became permanent around October-November 2008, because it was only supposed to last about 3 months, which is 90 days, but it turned out to be something more than that. Something that I felt they went overboard, you know? And now she's in this predicament and she's not going to have no money. And as a result, she's going on strike and won't perform no more until they kill that piece of shit conservatorship. And thank you, Britney. Thank you. Why should they get another dime off you after them having fucked you over all your life? And it's their fault that you're under the guardianship. Okay, you did not deserve that bullshit. But yet you should have told the lawyer to shove up his ass. Generally, conservatorships are granted to people who are incapable of making decisions, such as people with dementia, such as Alzheimer's, or other cognitive or mental disabilities. They can also be granted to those who are susceptible to undue influence, which they felt Britney was at the time because of her relationship with Sam Lutfi, who was responsible for that conservatorship, right? So let me backtrack. They can also be granted to those who are susceptible to undue influence and may not act in their best interest. Jamie Spears, who was portrayed as someone more interested in his daughter's fortune than her sense of self, did not participate in the documentary. Aha! Scared of what was going to come out. I thought Britney Spears was bullied into not going forward with all the shit that was going on for the past 12, 13 years. Remember, they didn't want the conservatorship to end. That's why they didn't want Britney to come forward, because she had all the answers. Which is why they didn't want Britney to do the Q&A. They're scared of the truth. James Spears and Britney's guardianship team are scared of the truth. That's why they want her to keep her mouth shut. While Spears may have initially needed court-ordered assistance in 2008, that's most likely no longer the case, and she wants her father pulled from the conservatorship. The hashtag Free Britney movement, which aims to raise awareness about Spears' conservatorship and ultimately liberate her, believes that Spears has demonstrated that she is ready to control her life and assets. They rally at Spears' conservatorship hearings and are passionate about helping a person who they say has given them so much. Legal documents echo their concerns. In a recent filing, Spears' court-appointed lawyer Sam Ingham stated that she was a high-functioning conservative, which raised red flags for Spears' former lawyer Adam Streisand, who is Barbra Streisand's second cousin, by the way. Quote, she's functioning enough to say, hey, I don't want my father to be a conservative. I'm not going to perform if he's the conservative, end quote. Maybe she doesn't need the conservatorship. That's what a lot of us are feeling too. I'm feeling that this goes beyond abuse. Behind-the-scenes footage of her rehearsals reminds us that she really was a spectacular dancing and singing talent. That those were of Britney Spears in happier times before the shit hit the fan with this guardianship challenge and everything, you know? Framing Britney Spears makes it clear that Spears was a promising young woman transformed into a person absent from her own life. Due to constant harassment from paparazzi, toxic influences, and untreated mental health issues, Spears becomes unwound. But she is still in need of many legal interventions so many years later. In tradition of so many mad women in the attic stories before her, framing Britney Spears as what happens when the door is open to reveal not a frothing hag, but hints of a quirky, completely competent human who benefits from meaningful work, time with her children, and an Instagram account. Now let me tell you something. They all need to leave Britney the fuck alone and let Britney live her life to the fullest and get her out of this piece of shit guardianship. Okay? And my views on this was that, she was bullied all her life. She endured so much harassment and abuse. It just followed from her childhood all the way to her adulthood, and that's what made her mentally unstable. Okay? And the way that she's being punished, she didn't deserve that. She's like an inmate serving life for a crime he didn't commit. Now, a lot of you have been there. Some of you have went to prison for crimes you didn't commit. And I'm sure when you hear about this Britney conservatorship challenge and everything else, this has you having flashbacks of what you went through when you was institutionalized, either in jail or in prison for a crime you didn't commit. I sure hope that Britney doesn't break down to the point where she kills herself. Like I said, a lot of us want to see Britney perform again, but that conservatorship cannot be in the open. Okay? Britney wants out of that conservatorship. Because Britney Spears stated that, quote, Britney has always wanted to get out, end quote. And, Brian was right. He made it loud and clear that, she didn't deserve it. I mean, she's a grown woman. I mean, the way I feel, she was never given a second chance. You know what I'm saying? You don't learn from just having one chance. You gotta learn. You can only learn if you have second chances. Everybody deserves a second chance. But this one did not get a second chance. She only got one chance, and that's just not fair. And I'm glad they opened this hashtag Free Britney movement because they don't want Britney to be imprisoned by the courts. They don't want her to be state property no more. They want her to win control of her life and her money. And let me tell you this, Britney would probably be a millionaire if not for the conservatorship. Her net worth would be in the fucking million and not in the double digits. Okay? This is not all Britney's fault. She might have done some bizarre things like shave her head and fucking smash a paparazzi car window, but again, she did not deserve to be mistreated by not only her friends but also her family and the public eye. During which point, if not for the public eye, she would not have met that piece of shit Sam Lutfa. And I also think of Amanda Bynes too. She was in a similar situation, and still is to this day, with the conservatorship. And again, I also think that the conservatorship should only be reserved for the elderly and the incompetent. Britney Spears does not fit the criteria. She don't have Alzheimer's. She don't have dementia. She may have postpartum and bipolar, but no matter what, she can manage her own affairs. Okay? Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys, he was manipulated in a similar circumstances. He had that piece of shit doctor, but his wife, straightened his ass out, and she is now his conservator. And since then, he has not been manipulated since. He got his wife to cover his ass 24/7. Maybe Brian needed that at some point because he was subject to unduly influence. But Britney, I feel she was a victim. That all this stuff was involuntary. Just like a lot of the stuff that we did in our past, it wasn't our fault. Not that it was justified, but it wasn't our fault. We were subject to unduly influences to an extent. But a lot of that stuff is not meant to be permanent. That's what they try to make it in Britney's case, I mean, give Britney a second chance, okay? Give her her money and her life back. Now, a lot of you are rooting for the same thing, that Britney gets out of this conservatorship prison and live large again, live whole, and be a good mother, be a good daughter, be a good friend, be a good cousin, be a good wife, because she's currently in a relationship. And, she don't get to make some of the decisions that she got to make as a youngster growing up, and I'm sure it just depresses her to understand. Had this been me, I'd be depressed and desperate. And I'm thinking, yo, what the fuck are they doing this to me for? I mean, why are they treating me like a juvenile? I mean, I'm almost 40 fucking years old. Why the fuck is you controlling my life? I mean, why won't you just leave me the fuck alone, man? It's your fault that I'm crazy. It is the paparazzi's fault and the public eye's fault that Britney's crazy. Because Britney will not be crazy if not for this TV father bullshit, Especially that Family Feud thing in that interview with Diane Sawyer. Like I said, manipulation. She was manipulated into this. Just like the way she was manipulated into signing those guardianship papers just so